Hello SGD, Sacred Geometry Decoded. This will be part 11 in the series. So quick review, interesting concepts, geometry, but the quadrivium, music, astronomy, arithmetic, geometry, earth measure, and how this connects to the pyramids of Giza. And also previous episodes I spoke how each of the proportions in here actually connects to such as the red pyramid, the bent pyramid, the Meidum pyramid, the capstone found next to the red pyramid, and how they share those. But I won't be covered that before, but what we can use is the three Giza pyramids as a very, very interesting geometrical, musical, arithmetic, and astronomy, and this will be a focus on geometry and astronomy. So previous episodes went through squaring the circle, phi, pi, the relationship of the Great Pyramid to the size of the Earth. The Great Pyramid is the same proportions as a capstone, 1 meter high, found next to the Red Pyramid. The Meidum Pyramid, so again that's repeated. Khafre's Pyramid having this 3:2 vesica-Pisces ratio, which incorporates the 3, 4, 5, the first of the perfect Pythagorean triplets. Menkaure, the smallest of the three, having this 8:5 or 1.6:1 ratio, which is a Fibonacci number. That Fibonacci ratio again being reflected in Khafre's Pyramid. Now, Great Pyramid, so basically went through the size of the Earth, and, well, again, Pythagorean triangles, how the relationship of the size of the Earth to the size of the Moon as expressed in the Great Pyramid also blends nicely with Khafre's Pyramid via the Pythagorean 3, 4, 5 triangle. This 14 to 11 or 1 to 0.2727 describing the Earth. This was covered in the last, but whether it's Vitruvian Man, the Salamis stone, which is an ancient conversion tool between various units of measure. Lots more to come in regards to this, because this will link back to the Egyptian royal cube via the golden number phi. So this was all went through in the last episode. The size of the Moon in relation to the Earth, also nice in the same geometry, describes the Barycenter, which is described by the Great Pyramid, the beautiful numbers connected therein, and how again the measures and the geometry connect. And so the pyramids and the planets to begin with. Now so Thoth, Seshat, Hermes, Mercury, Nuwafuzi, gods of knowledge, maths, architecture, alchemy as well. This will be an important feature. Weights and measures, but astronomy as well. So we saw earlier the 7 to 11 or 14 to 11 right angle triangle of the Great Pyramid, or Meidum, or the capstone next to the Red Pyramid, gives this squaring the circle, which leads to a nice proportion describing the relative size of the Earth and the Moon, which also describes the Barycenter in there. So that was the Great Pyramid. The Khafre's Pyramid, the 2 to 3 or vesica-Pisces, as well as the 3, 4, 5 triangles. This will be an important feature. But now what we have is this. So 14 to 11, 14 to 11. Khafre's Pyramid, well, so we can overlay that through the vesica. Now we get a vesica. Mark that again. And now we have an 8, 11, 14 triangle. Or ratio, ruler, which gives us the 5, 8, 11, 14. Menkaure Pyramid, an 8:5 ratio. The Great Pyramid is 8 compared to the Meidum Pyramid being 5. Meidum and the Great Pyramid share the same 7 to 11 proportions, which incorporate this Earth-Moon relationship. Now if you do the double vesica, and this was actually one of the inspirations for this particular series in regards to the meter and imperial measurements, and Sun, Earth and Moon astronomy embedded in the current imperial English system. But again, we can just use the Khafre's Pyramid. So now we have a 2, 5, 8, 11, 14. So this particular, through the vesica and this inherent geometry of the Great Pyramid, leads us to, so for instance, we have a 2 to 3. That's the vesica proportions, which describes a Khafre, Pyramid of Khafre. The Menkaure Pyramid, which is a 5 to 8 ratio, those are Fibonacci numbers. Fibonacci spiral also includes the 3 to 2. So the Vesica Pisces of Caffrey's pyramid is also can be expressed via the 3 to 2 Fibonacci spiral sequence, which leads us to the golden number as well. There you go. Now back to this 14 to 11 ratio of a right angle triangle, which comes from the Great Pyramid. So we see the pyramids down here and all this inherent lovely geometry maths going on. So now we're just going to simplify it. Now we get rid of all the clutter. Now we have 5, 8, 11, 14 being described by the Vesica. Thoth and Seshat in ancient Egypt are connected to architecture, surveying, measurement, astronomy, geometry, math, record keepers, and gods of weights and measure. But geometry, astronomy, well, weights and measures as well. So the Vesica, which describes the Barycenter, which describes the relationship of the sides between the Earth and the Moon, and the relationship of the Barycenter, the orbital point. So now, if we just going to make this larger, so it's a bit more clear. So there we have that. So what's going on in this illustration? We see in this 5, 8, 11, and 14. Now, as the pyramid shows, 11 being 1, therefore that's the Earth, therefore the Moon being 27.3% the size of the Earth, we have this 11 to 14, so Earth is 1. So 11, Earth is 1, and then if that's the diameter of the Earth, from 11 to 14 gives us the diameter of the Moon. So if that is 1, then therefore 14 is 1.2727, so therefore 0.272727 minus 1 is 0.7272. Therefore 5 is 0.454545. So these are the relationships between them. So we've just, Earth is 1, which was represented by 11. Okay, so 8, 5. So that's the relationships between them, just to make the proportions more obvious. Now, Sun, Mercury, Venus, Earth, Moon, and Mars, described by this geometry, proportions, numbers built into the Giza pyramids, which of course relate to the other pyramids of Egypt. Now, astronomy. So the distance, or the average distance from the Sun to the Earth, is called 1 AU, an astronomical unit. This is what astronomers use. Now this might be an arbitrary unit. However, I'll put the link in the description. I've done a couple of videos on Bode's law and the sacred geometry which emerges from the Vesica. So Bode's law describes the distances between the planets and the Sun, with the exceptions of Venus and Neptune, which are special cases. I talk about that in the video because it's it's essentially perfect and still very, very, very close approximate in regards to Venus especially. But Venus is a special case because Venus rotates in the opposite direction. Bode's law actually predicted the asteroid belt and its location, as well as Uranus. Bode's law emerges from the geometry of the Vesica Pisces, seat of life. So this geometry here is the basis for Bode's law. I'll put that link in the description. Now, Bode's law also describes, in Bode's law, Earth is 1. So the distance from the Sun to the Earth is 1 in Bode's law. Okay, so Bode's law is so Earth is 6. Bode's law follows the same principle. You start with this number plus 4 divided by 10. So Earth is represented by the 6-pointed star. 6 plus 4 equals 10. Divided by 10 is 1. Bode's law predicts where Earth is. Let me get that out of the way. Okay. So that's Earth. Now, the same rule applies. So let's begin with Mercury. We begin with 0, so a circle. A circle has no corners. 0 plus 4 divided by 10 equals 0.4. Bode's law describes the position of Mercury. Now, the difference between the closest and the farthest point, so Mercury will be at this point. Venus is next. So from the Vesica, we have a circle. When we draw the Vesica, we can get an equilateral triangle. 3 corners, 3 plus 4 divided by 10 is 0.7. Bode's law is slightly out here. It's slightly out from there, but okay, except now Earth is 1. being the 6-pointed or the hexagon. The next star is the 12-pointed star, which emerges from that. 12 plus 4 divided by 10 is 1.6. Bode's law predicts the location of Mars. The next one would be Ceres. Part of the asteroid belt was not known about at that time. Bode's law predicted there would be something there. There was something there, and he predicted it at the right location. Now, there are a few aspects of Bode's law, but that's being one example now. So Bode's law emerges from the basic geometry 0, 3, 6, 12, 24, 48, 96, etc. These are the built into the harmonic numbers as well. It's just plus 4 divided by 10 to give you those aspects. Now, in several, okay, I shouldn't say several, in some major astronomical journals, it is actually forbidden to mention Bode's law. It is verboten. And that's an interesting point. But Bode's law describes, just like the AU astronomical unit, Bode's law defines the Earth, the distance from the Sun to the Earth as 1. So just like this geometry will. So already the Great Pyramid defines Earth as 1. All right, so that same and that geometry of 14 to 11. Okay, so using the vesica and building backwards from that, the next would be 8 in relation to 1 at 0.272727. Let's go to Venus. Venus is between 0.718 and 0.728 AU. So that's by best available measures. That's the maximum and minimum distance of Venus, which is, so at maximum distance 0.728 AU, 0.272727. This describes the position of Venus in relation to the Sun very, very nicely. The next one would be Mercury. Mercury between 0.3075 and 0.4667 AU. Bode's law predicts it being at 0.4, but out towards here we would have 0.454545. So again, towards the furthest point out, the same geometry describes accurately the position of Mercury. Mercury will pass through this point. Venus will pass through this point. Earth will pass through this point. This is a geometry which also describes Earth and Moon. So there we see the first planets. Now the next planet would be Mars. Okay, well now the Moon. Towards its maximum distance from the Earth, the Moon will be 0.0027272727 AU. That same distance, that same proportion, it's just a shifted decimal place. Same thing. Now, where we see the distance are the proportion of size in relation to the proportion of distance. And now we have that 5 to 8 ratio. 5 to 8 describes the height to the width of the Menkaure pyramid. It also describes the relationship between the Great Pyramid and the Meidum pyramid, which both share the 7 to 11 ratio, which is the basis of this. So it's not just, this is not the only relationship between the pyramids. Now that would create a 1 to 1.6 distance. Now the Great Pyramid itself, or the Meidum pyramid, or the capstone at the Red Pyramid, is 7 to 11, therefore 1.27. Okay, so that's if the half base is 1, the height is 1.2727, therefore the slope is 1.61859. Put that there, and well, Mars passes through those points. Mars, it's from the minimum to the maximum distance incorporated in there, and more to come in regards to this, but there are some very, well, it's the same thing, questions of now geometry defines everything. It is the essence of the sciences, and these tools which can be found in ancient times, the references to weights and measures can be found in ancient texts, especially connected to morality as well. More to come, just a touch, more to come.